Congresswoman Debbie Lesko of Arizona is with us to talk about this and some other issues here. Why would the State Department be paying money towards a group with an obvious political axe to grind that is targeting conservative speech?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. We're learning more and more about how government is colluding with big tech, social media companies, and now these so-called fact checkers, which aren't really fact checkers, they're biased. And it's a sad state of affairs. It's a sad state of affairs, and that's why I'm so thankful that Republicans are in the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives so we can start doing some investigations and get to the bottom of it.
Well, I mean, you're on the committee, as I understand, with James Comer, the Oversight Committee, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this. That seems like basically our own government is working against. It's basically part of now what we know to be an ecosystem, and that is government weaponizing resources against conservatives. Isn't that what happened in the lead up to the 2020 election, with the FBI meeting regularly with big tech corporations, warning them that they may be victims of disinformation campaigns? Those disinformation campaigns may be about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, et cetera. And then the laptop story comes out, and how convenient for all of them to be prepared not to run the story, to bury the story, to censor the story in the lead up to the presidential race.
Yeah, I mean, between James Comer in that committee, the Oversight Committee, and Jim Jordan on the Judiciary Committee, I think there's going to be some tough grilling of questions, and we have to take advantage of this, that we're in the Republican majority, because for too long now, under Nancy Pelosi, we have not gotten any answers to how the government is interfering in our lives and interfering in the biasness against conservatives. Now, I'm serving on the select subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, and just on Monday, we sent out several letters, 5 letters, trying to get answers about the COVID origins, because I interviewed, or I asked a question of the NIH acting director just last week, and he denies that any funding went to the Wuhan lab for coronavirus research. Well, we're getting conflicting information on that. So that's another whole area that we have to investigate.
Well, that's a big deal. And honestly, I think we better get to the bottom of it. My understanding was the NIH gave the Eco Alliance organization monies, of which they did spend at the Wuhan virology lab. Hasn't that been confirmed by this point?
Well, you would think so, but again, the NIH acting director just last week in committee, when I asked the question, said no, that there was no funding for that. So there are definitely conflicting things here. I think Dr. Fauci, or Mr. Fauci himself, even admitted that there was money that went to a sub-grant from EcoHealth to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And so that's why our committee, and Comer signed on to the letter, and Dr. Winstrup, who's the chair of the subcommittee, and myself, and we asked Dr. Fauci, Peter Daszak, who's the president of EcoHealth Alliance and the director of National Intelligence, and the Francis Collins, who now works for the president but was the former NIH director, and Secretary of HHS, Becerra. We asked them for documents, communications, calendar notes. We want testimony. We want interviews. We want to interview 29 HHS officials. And so we asked for this information when we were in the minority, and now that we're in the majority, we asked for it again, and we expect that we'll get the answers. We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, well, they've been dodging and ducking Jim Jordan's committee, and they've been uncooperative. The same thing with Jim Comer's committee. He was on TV last night telling me that he's got no option now. The Biden family syndicate won't cooperate, so they've now got to send out subpoenas and work their way through that process, which doesn't surprise me. I would imagine that whatever is necessary has to at some point be forthcoming. Considering the amount of money that we're talking about and the president's inability to deal with China, I think it's a legitimate question to know how much money the Biden family may have made in deals with China. I think that's a pretty fair question. All right, quick break. More with Congresswoman Debbie Lesko of Arizona on the other side. Then we'll get to your calls, 800-941-SEAN, our number if you want to be a part of the program. We continue with Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. Great state of Arizona is with us. Yeah, your State Department is now funding an organization waging a censorship campaign against conservative media. What do you make of the balloons flying all over the country, or at least the one that we know flew from Alaska to Idaho to Montana to Kansas, to Missouri, to Kentucky, to the Carolinas, and the fact that we don't even have a clue what the other three objects were that we shot out of the sky, but we shot them out of the sky anyway, and they just say that, well, they don't think it's related to China. Do you buy that?
No, I don't buy it. And, quite honestly, it's hard to know what the truth is, because you have, we got information saying that these balloons flew over before, even under Trump, and they never told Trump, they never told Biden. But then on the other hand, you have the general of NORAD saying we couldn't even identify, we didn't even see the Chinese balloon, but yet then you have the spokesman for Department of Defense saying, oh, we saw it and we knew all along what it was doing, and so we were just monitoring it. I mean, everybody's telling a different story. It doesn't add up. They're not telling the truth to Congress members. They're apparently not even telling the President of the United States, and it makes you wonder who the heck is running our country here. And between that, the CDC, the terrible withdrawal from Afghanistan, the border crisis, I mean, I work for the government, but I don't trust the government. And it's a sad state of affairs. I was on Judiciary Committee during the first impeachment of Donald Trump, and it really opened my eyes about how there are bad actors in the agencies, including the FBI and DOJ, and it's up to Congress to do oversight, and it hasn't been done under Pelosi, and we plan to do it now.
Well, I hope it gets done. I think we got to get answers to simple questions. The lying and inconsistency is obvious to me. The thought that our own Air Force would be shooting down objects and they don't even know what they're shooting at is incomprehensible to me. The idea that they'd be so quick to say, but it has nothing to do with China, very unlikely. That doesn't make sense either. The fact that the administration says that the balloon that was flying all over the continental U.S., not a major breach, that doesn't make sense. None of this is making any sense to me. And I think we're creating a situation where the Chinese kind of feel emboldened, like they can do whatever they want, and there's not going to be any consequences at all.
Well, I miss President Trump on this because I think President Trump would have been very strong. Unfortunately, our current president has displayed weakness, and especially in the terrible withdrawal in Afghanistan, where they promised that they wouldn't leave Americans, and they left Americans, and it just seems total incompetence. I mean, Americans no longer trust our federal government. And when you talk about whatever issue, whether it's COVID, we gotten all kinds of different information on COVID, and the government mandates on the vaccines and shutting down schools, or whether you're talking about now these Chinese spy balloon, why didn't they shoot it down in the Pacific Ocean before it reached the United States of America? I don't know that we're ever going to know. I hope that we can get to the bottom of it, but quite frankly, I don't have a lot of trust, because I remember being in a briefing with the Secretary of State, and this was, about the Afghanistan withdrawal. And I remember him promising us, members of Congress, that there would be not one American left behind, and then there was. And so, when somebody doesn't tell you the truth about that, you start wondering about everything they say.
I think I couldn't say it any better. Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, Arizona, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks for the updates on all of this.